Charles Chesnutt was an African-American man born in 1858 who became an author, lawyer, and political activist, but overall was most well known for his written works. Although he identified as an African-American man, he was technically 7/8 white and would often be mistaken as white throughout his life. This made him and his experiences somewhat unique when compared to other Black authors or even just Black people at the time. These experiences may have contributed to the topics Chesnutt chose to discuss within his literary works, such as racial passing, which was when members of one race passed as another, or marriage between two different races. I think one of the reasons why you should read Chesnutt, or more specifically his 1901 novel, The Marrow of Tradition, is simply because of his choice of topics and how progressive they were. Although there were other African American writers who used their literature to express the cruelty and unfairness of racial discrimination at the time, Chesnutt took it a step further by not only protesting for the rights of Black Americans to be treated as people, not property, but basically saying that Black people were on the same level as white people through something like interracial marriage. I think that even today, more than 100 years later, there's still some people who are struggling to accept something as normal as two people of a different race wanting to marry each other. So even now, Chesnutt's novel is relevant and important. And although racial prejudice is the reason as to why the novel was written, I think that it's also relevant to this day and age because of its realistic depiction of people who refuse to change their mind about an opinion that could be wrong, harmful, or immoral. In the book, we see characters who firmly believe in one thing, and despite being blatantly proven wrong, they still stand by their views, which can be said about millions of people today who refuse to change their opinion on something despite all the opposing evidence, especially people on the internet. Chesnutt's novel brings to light how this sort of thinking is very wrong, and how many issues today could be solved if people would just form their own opinions through reasoning and an unbiased view. And of course, reading Chesnutt is important because his realistic works are a part of history, and it's always good to know our history and the mistakes we've made in the past to keep us from reverting back to our old ways of thinking and making those same mistakes.